Chapter 1. The Thinker and the Prover. All that we are all that we are is the result of all that we have thought. It is founded on thought. It is based on thought. Buddha, Dhammapada. William James, father of American psychology, tells of meeting an old lady who told him the earth rested on the back of a huge turtle. End quote. But, my dear lady, Professor James asked, as politely as possible, what holds up the turtle? She said, that's easy. He is standing on the back of another turtle. Another turtle. Oh, I see, said Professor James, still being polite. But would you be so good as to tell me what holds up the second turtle? It's no use, Professor, said the old lady, realizing he was trying to lead her into a logical trap. It's turtles, 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 all the way. No need to break to laugh at this little old lady. All human minds work on fundamentally similar principles. Her universe was a little bit weirder than most, but it was built up on the same mental principles as every other universe people have believed in. As Dr. Leonard Orr has noted, the human mind behaves as if it were divided into two parts, the thinker and the prover. The thinker can think about virtually anything. History shows that it can think the earth is suspended on the back of infinite turtles, or that the earth is hollow, or that the earth is floating in space. Comparative religion and philosophy shows that thinker can regard itself as mortal, as immortal, as both mortal and immortal, the reincarnation model, or even a non-existent, even a non-existent, or Buddhism. It can think itself into living a Christian's universe, a Marxist universe, a scientific relativistic universe, or a Nazi universe, among many possibilities. As psychiatrists and psychologists have often observed, much to the chagrin of their medical college, the thinker can think itself sick, and can even think itself well again. The prover is a much simpler mechanism. It operates on one law only. Whatever the thinker thinks, the prover proves. To cite a notorious example which unleashed incredible horrors earlier in this century, if the thinker thinks that all Jews are rich, the prover will prove it. It will find evidence that the poorest Jew in the most rundown ghetto has hidden money somewhere. Similarly, feminists are able to believe that all men, including the starving rangers who live and sleep on the streets, are exploiting all women, including the Queen of England. If the thinker thinks that the sun moves around the earth, the prover will obligingly organize all perceptions to fit that thought. If the thinker changes its mind and decided the earth moved around the sun, the proof will reorganize the evidence. If the thinker thinks, quote unquote, holy water from Lourdes will cure its lumbago, the prover will skillfully orchestrate all signals from the glands, muscles, organs, etc., until they have organized themselves into good health again. Of course, it is fairly easy to see that other people's minds operate this way. It is comparatively much harder to become aware that one's own mind is working that way also. It is believed, for instance, that some men are more objective than others. One seldom hears this about women. Businessmen are allegedly hard-nosed, pragmatic, and objective in this sense. A brief examination of the dingbat politic most businessmen endorse will quickly correct that impression. Scientists, however, are still believed to be objective. No study of the lives of the great scientists will confirm this. They were as passionate, as hence as prejudiced as any assembly of great painters or great musicians. It was not just the church, but also the established astronomers of the time who condemned Galileo. The majority of physicists rejected Einstein's special relativity theory in 1905. Einstein's Einstein's Einstein himself would not accept anything in quantum theory after 1920, no matter how many experiments supported it. Edison's commitment to direct current DC electrical generators led him to insist alternating currents. AC generators were unsafe for years after their safety had been proven to everyone else. Edison's big-headedness on this matter was partly the result of his jealousy against Nikola Tesla, inventor of AC generators. Tesla, on the other hand, refused the Nobel Prize when it was offered to him, and Edison jointly because he refused to appear on the same platform with Edison. Both of these geniuses were only capable of objectivity and science in certain limited laboratory conditions. If you think you have a higher objectivity quotient than either of them, why haven't you been nominated for a Nobel Prize? Science achieves an approximate objectivity not because the individual scientist is immune from the psychological laws that governs the rest of us, but because scientific method group creation eventually overrides individual prejudice in the long run. To take notorious example from the 1960s, there was a point when their research groups had proven that LSD causes chromosomes damage, while three other groups had proven that LSD has no effect on the chromosomes. In each case, the prover had proved that what the thinker thought. Right now, there are in physics 7 experiments that confirms a very controversial concepts known as Bell theorems, and 2 experiments that refute Bell's theorem. In the area of sensory perception, the results are uniform after more than a century. Everybody who sets out to prove that ASP exists succeeds, and everybody who sets out to prove that ASP does not exist also succeeds. Truth, quote unquote, the truth or relative truth emerges only after decades of experiments by thousands of groups all over the world, all over the world. In the long run, we are hopefully approximating closer and closer to the objective truth over the centuries. In the short run, Orr's law always holds. Whatever the thinker thinks, the prover will prove. And if the thinker thinks passionately enough, the prover will prove the thought so conclusively that you will never talk a person out of such a belief, even if it is something as remarkable as the notion that there is a gaseous vertebrate of astronomical health, quote unquote, quote unquote, God, who will spend all eternity torturing people who do not believe in his religion. Title: Exercises. Sad as it is to say, you never understand anything by merely reading a book about it. That's why every science course included laboratory experiments, and why every consciousness liberations movement demands practice of yogas, meditations, confrontation techniques, etc., in which the ideas are tested in the laboratory of your own nervous system. The reader will absolutely not understand this book unless he or she does the exercises given at the end of each chapter. To explore the thinker and the prover, try following. 1. Visualize a quarter vividly and imagine vividly that you are going to find a quarter on the street. Then look for a quarter every time you take a walk. Meanwhile, continuing to visualize it, see how long it takes you to find the quarter. 2. Explain the above experiment by the hypothesis of selective attention. That is, believe there are lots of lost quarter everywhere and you were bound to find one by continually looking. Go looking for second quarter. 3. Explain the experiments by the alternative, mystical hypothesis that mind controls everything. Believe that you made the quarter manifest in this universe. Go looking for a second quarter. Second quarter. If the reader is a scientist, be not alarmed. This refers not to you, but only those benign fools in the opposite camp who refuse to recognize that your theory is the only reasonable one, of course. Number 4. Compare the time it takes to find the second quarter using the first hypothesis. Attention, with the time it takes using the second hypothesis. Mind over matter. 5. With your own ingenuity, invent similar experiments and each time compare the two theories: selective attention, coincidence, versus mind controls everything, psychokinesis. 6. Avoid coming to any strong conclusion prematurely. At the end of the month, reread this chapter, think it over again, and still postpones coming to any dogmatic conclusion. Believe it possible that you do not know everything yet, that you might have something still to learn. Convince yourself. If you are not ready, if you are not already convinced that you are ugly, unattractive, and dull, go to a party in that frame of mind. Observe how people treat you. 9. This is the hardest of all exercises and comes in two parts. First, observe closely and dispassionately who dear friends and true relatives, strangers. Try to figure out what their thinkers think and how they prefer methodically set about proving it. Second, apply the same exercise to yourself. If you think you have learned the lessons of these exercises in less than 6 months, you haven't really been working at them. With real work, with real work, in 6 months, you should be just beginning to realize how little you know about everything. Number 10. Believe it possible that you can float off the ground and fly by merely willing it. See what happens. If this exercise proves as disappointing to you as it has to me, try number 11 below, which is never disappointing. 11. Believe that you can exceed all your previous ambitions and hopes in all areas of your life. Quote, believe or unquote, eh, quote unquote, believe or quote, convince yourself mean to do what an actor does. Pretend until the pretense begin to feel real, or as jazz musician says, fake it until you make it. It's all models are subject to to revision as this book goes along. They are also subject to revision after the book is finished by the author or by the reader. Tentative model. The perceived universe is a mixture of the real universe and our own thinker, proving its pet belief.